very sweaty arm.
Yeah, it's the season for it.
'Tis the season.
Come here.
Oh, big sweaty hug. Welcome to the Sempiternal Leela experience, where we have deeper conversations with musicians. I am here with Echo Ballard, aka my younger sister. Echo is going to play a song at the end. Stay tuned. Don't miss out. Echo has music on Bandcamp. Anywhere else?
It's mainly been Bandcamp. It's kind of on a couple different Bandcamp pages that are organized thematically. The most recent one would be vice-load.bandcamp.com. So viceload.bandcamp.com with a hyphen.
Yeah, so the purpose of this channel is I was inspired by a YouTube documentary on China's underground music scene. It just got me really thinking about the way musicians, artists who make music could have like a different lens on like bigger life issues. So there's this quote by John Trudell that I had mentioned in the car that I really like. When one lives in a society where people can no longer rely on the institutions to tell them the truth must come from culture and art. Mm-hmm. So what is it about music creation? I remember when you were just a little tiny one with your little headphones. I think it was that the song by Live, "The Angel Closes her eyes."
Yeah.
Sitting on this little chair, this little, like, I don't know, you were probably 3 or 4, and just like this look on your face of like this is amazing, like this is so delicious. So I remember like that moment from when you were a kid, and you definitely went on you started learning about music, the science of music,
obsessively,
pretty early on.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me about your perspective about what it is that music that drew you in, and then you can tell the viewers about when that started.
I would say the thing for music with me is that I guess it's one of those art forms that like especially bridges the imagination and the intuition for me, and they are different from each other. But when you tell me that anecdote, and I don't remember that, but I've heard that anecdote before, I do still definitely feel that way about music, where I just kind of immerse into it, and I am, ideally like giving my total attention to whatever the other musician or team of musicians or engineers is presenting for me. And it definitely helps with like bodily equilibrium, which everybody kind of needs bodily equilibrium to be active in any respect rather than just passive. I guess it kind of just sets my chest right to hear something that really physically resonates in music.
Do you think that being on the spectrum kind of has anything to... Sorry, we can edit this part out.
No, you don't have to edit this part out.
Okay. Do you think that there's a connection there?
I think there absolutely is, because a lot of the musicians I look up to and the musicians I've worked with as peers have also definitely been on the spectrum. Even in cases where they didn't get a formal autism diagnosis, because autism used to be, there's this entire diagnostic history with autism, which is political. Autism used to be autistic psychopathy, and it used to be a bad one that you got that would really box you in and you couldn't afford any assistance. I guess it's maybe an inclination to want to immerse in those experiences because they're not supernatural, but they're more than quotidian. They are extraordinary, right? And the good stuff demands your attention, and I think for a lot of people, maybe they don't like it as much, but I think My Bloody Valentine make music that is texture intensive and attention demanding.
Okay.
And that's just kind of the edge of things that sets my brain on fire, because I'm not not that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all, but my bailiwick isn't light music, stuff that is meant to passively entertain people. It's, it's meant to be expressive of something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's situational for the piece, right?
Sometimes like when Echo speaks, sometimes her intellect is above my level. So if I get this
I might just be talking out of my ass. I might just be talking out of my ass too. It's a topic that's difficult to put a pin on, because that immersive and resonatory experience is pre-linguistic or paralinguistic or non-linguistic, right? Which it might sound like I'm avoiding talking about it, but I don't have like the skill of a music writer, right? Like that's something that takes a lot to pull off.
So like you had a lot of instruction as a kid on like music theory and
somewhat.
Like, I mean, from my perspective, it seems that way.
I mean, more than a lot of people. I mean,
you had that teacher in California.
Yeah, there was Spencer Burrows in California, and then there was Stan Funicelli in Trek North. But a lot of it has just been like, it's maybe a generational difference, because if you're interested in something now and you have internet access, you can just get lost in there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I guess I'm pre-consciously using a lot of the music theory stuff. Spencer Burrows with like the recording stuff was definitely more immediately helpful, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. That's okay. Well, and you were writing songs as a young kid.
Yeah.
I know that you still get embarrassed.
No, I'm not embarrassed by it, because I revisited a record I made between
we just loved them.
Yeah, between California and Utah when I was in the process of moving. 3 Angels, the Children's Hour.
Shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like in aim with this channel, it's more so maybe the political part can be part of it, the spirit, like musicians' viewpoints on these bigger topics, spirituality. One that's kind of sticky that I'm gonna try to carefully play around with without stepping on any toes is, okay, so what is your perspective on the music industry, independent versus signed versus like underground, these different terms, what they mean? Because I have opinions.
Yeah.
We all have opinions.
Rock stars like this, the like rock stars that I looked up to who made great music, like never had like a great time doing music as their job. Like you don't want to reduce what you're doing as something, I can use this word, spiritual, to something you're working for peanuts doing to continue to be able to do. And I listened to a record recently that came out last year, I think. Do you know the British Nigerian rapper Sims? Little Sims?
Oh, love.
You love Sims? Okay.
Love.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck. And I was working my shift yesterday, and I was like moving tables around. I listened to her newest record, and the lead single from A Gorilla is just like goes. But like there's a narrative arc of her new record about talking about being independent again after having been with a distribution deal and a label deal. And again, because I'm mainly making music for and with my friends, I don't usually think about it, but yeah, like I would still advise against it, and I was touched by her narrative of that. The title of the album is No Thank You, all caps, No Thank You by Sims from 2022, and that's SIMZ for anyone who doesn't already know.
She has such a good sound.
I know, so and the production on that record was crazy. It reminded me of like a lot of the rap music I was excited about like 10 years ago, like kind of like video gamey textures and like lots of like soul sampling and like original like choral, like vocal work on it as well.
She has somebody who does vocals with her. It's like a more male sounding voice. Them together, I don't know, really good sounds.
I see no reason for me personally to like ever seek out any kind of anything more than like a basic distribution deal, and Spotify wigs me out as an idea, and just I don't imagine that the revenue or residuals from streaming are that great. You know, it's like
well, the interview with Eve, he was talking about how he would put all this time and effort into making an album and touring and stuff like that, and like financial return was
just no return, so you don't do it for that. Is kind of the secret.
And I think that was he totally said just that. And I think this is kind of like,
and I mean Steve Albini has said it before as well. You know, it's like, don't you kind of definitionally not like your job? Like, why would you want to mix work and play like that? And it's bizarre that there even is like a pop music industry, and we kind of it's good. Like the music that has come as a result of it is good, but you know, within the last half century, there's just been an explosion of recorded, marketed music, and that's not how people made music for most of the time doing it. And I imagine, it is my hope that music will outlive that medium, and that framework and that infrastructure.
Yeah. I think that, and I want to speak carefully because I don't want to step on toes of anyone in the music business, but
they're hopefully doing fine.
I'm sure they're doing fine. There's a difference from creating music from this creative space, is the best way I can call it, for the sake of it, for the, like, satiating that feeling within you that wants to express this creativity, versus this industry that wants to create pop stars. And like, there was this feeling that was kind of brought up in the previous interview. It's sort of hard to describe feeling that you get when you hear really good music. Like, it's this deep internal whole, like, emotion that I don't get from listening to a lot of the pop music, like the Taylor Swift.
And it's meant to be like,
it's not there.
It's meant to be functional as background music or in-group identifying.
Very sanitary.
And, and it takes it takes specialized skills to do it well. And
sure.
I mean, right. And I'm not an anti-optimist or anything. Like, right. I love Kylie Minogue, but anything worth doing is worth doing for its own sake, so to speak. Yeah.
It's blessed in and of itself.
Yeah.
The terms, because I want to explore these terms too. Independent, underground. We know what signed music is. Independent and underground. Do you have definitions you could maybe share? Because everybody's definitions on things are different.
Yeah. No, the independent major distinction, as far as I can see, has mattered exponentially less and less since I've been born, because kind of the bubble of manufacturing pop stars burst around that time, especially with
which time?
Like the late 90s, early 2000s, especially with bands, right? Much cheaper to have it be an individual person whose thing is that they're the vocalist, and then the production team takes care of the rest of it.
Whereas it used to be NSYNC and the Spice Girls and things like that, and now.
Well, I would say that was the beginning of the end of it, right? So what I'm getting at is that I like improvised synthesizer music and really well made techno and rap instrumentals and really well done rap and resonant maybe sometimes lighter social guitar music, and any of that is going to be independent now. As far as underground, though, I think maybe the independent underground distinction is more interesting, because you can be independent and still be, have some kind of deal where you're putting out cassettes or vinyl on Bandcamp and getting write-ups in, Tiny Mixtapes, bit the dust a couple years ago, or they are on hiatus. I don't know who's reading Pitchfork now, but you know what I mean. Or having a Tiny Desk concert on NPR.
Yeah.
That's larger level indie.
Yep.
But there always will be people who, if they even do put it out, the music that they're recording, it's with a view of a statement for them, and the people they know for sure will listen to it, of where they're musically at. And the musical activity is entirely house and warehouse shows, right? Maybe it's a big event to have a local show at a real venue once in a while. That's down there. That's a different thing.
You're referring to? Or,
yes.
Yeah.
There is an underground, and there's stuff that's always just going to be difficult for most people to listen to, or difficult to make for technical skill or emotional color, that probably just will never get traction with the bigger independent circuit. And that's completely fine.
Mm-hmm. And there's still so much depth and juiciness and little gold nuggets.
And there will always be more music to listen to, is the thing. That's kind of actually what's beautiful about, for me, it's all pop music. Right? It's all pop as in people.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
If it's not if you're not writing it on sheet music for a preset like some kind of like orchestral ensemble. Like if it's not like classical music, for me, it's pop music.
Okay.
Like
So
wherever it's
you
from
use
or
this
whatever.
term
It's
really broadly.
very loosely, yeah. But there has been an explosion of it because of like rock and roll in the 50s that's been beautiful because you're never going to run out of things to listen to.
Oh yeah.
And everything is connected to everything else ever. It's kind of an example of the infinite in the finite in its own way.
To you, again, these definitions are different for everybody. What does spirituality mean to you?
What does spirituality mean to me? Okay, so I've used a couple technical terms from Spinoza, and I'm reading secondary literature on Spinoza right now.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we did try to do an earlier draft of this for anybody else watching, but the sound system didn't work last year. And I was reading Wilhelm Reich, who's still very important to me and like a component of what spirituality is for me. Spirituality for me is that thing of connecting the imagination, which is just sense impression writ large. That's how I understand the imagination. I mean, what I'm getting at is I'm going to be using Spinozist technical terms or half-remembered stuff from reading Spinoza and this other book about Spinoza. The imagination is like your first thought, basically, and it's anything and everything, and it wants everything to be connected, whether or not there is actually causal connection. Mm-hmm. And then there's the reason that kind of doubles back on that, and it's like, this is actually what the case is. I can discover the connection between these things and not just assume what it is, and I can prove it to you, But the intuition is like the common essence of both of those things, and so
what can be proven and what can't be proven?
It's not as neat as that.
Okay.
Yeah, like, because the thing is that everything that can be imagined can be understood with reason and with intuition. But not everything that can be understood or can be reasoned through can be imagined, which is relatively late or surface level or epiphenomenal or streaming, just kind of going and going and going. But there's a beyond to that. Like, there is a beyond to me as an individual instantiation of all that is the case. Mm-hmm. And spirituality for me is the work of accounting for all that is the case and feeling through the thread that connects me to those higher levels of understanding, higher than the imagination. I am necessarily bound to imagine things because of my physical limits. I mean, the example Spinoza gives, and I did a record on this on the Vice Load Bandcamp, is the sunshine. Like, even once we rationally know that the sun is not 200 feet away, mm-hmm. and that, like, it travels a very long time for the rays to hit our skin, we will still imagine it as just as present. But once you know, that's fine, and you can just kind of feel the sunshine.
Yeah.
So that's what spirituality is for me.
Okay. So I'm wondering if what you're describing is similar to like what I call the meat suit experience. Versus the beyond the meat suit.
Yeah, that's actually
you sweat. It's hot.
You don't have to be like you don't have to be diffident or deferent because that's exactly what it is.
So your sensory, mental.
Our first thought is to over-identify with the imagination and construct a subject. Yeah. But that's not actually
get pulled into that experience,
right?
As if there's nothing else beyond that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like it can kind of become a black hole, right? And the work of spirituality
is cut yourself off from that greater unknown.
But the thing is that the work of spirituality is coming to know the unknown and getting over one's fear of actually knowing it. Yeah. It's the work of spirituality is to basically stop doing something. Right. David Haim Smith is a Jewish contemplative thinker and map maker and like spiritual alchemist. His lectures are on YouTube. I think they're wonderful. maybe some of my more politically inclined friends watching this. And
we could put him in the description if you
absolutely,
think.
yeah.
Remind me, yeah.
I would love to promote his stuff because his stuff has been really helpful for me. Maybe some of the people watching this will say it's woo, but I don't care. I
like a little woo.
We like woo. We like woo. Woo is part of it. Yeah. Woo is part of it. And
what would life be without some woo?
Woo. It's less woo than most woo goes, though. It's very like clear-headed. He says that being in error about what is the case, error has no beginning. You are always already like identifying with your sense perceptions as they are imagined and not as they are understood. Mm-hmm. But it has an end, which is when you come to understand what you're imagining. But once you come to understand, you are understanding kind of one note at a time. Everything. Only one note at a time, but everything. So it doesn't have an end. So error has a beginning, has no beginning, but has an end, and truth has a beginning, but it has no end. And it's kind of that middle term of when you stop doing something. And that's what I mean when I keep referring to the work of spirituality, is it's to stop avoiding the essential and to stop getting caught in loops.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
The deeper dimension is what some spiritual teachers refer to it as.
And practically speaking, it's very, from the outside at least, boring. It's deeply engaging.
Absolutely, yeah. To the mind, it's like, that's boring. There's nothing meaty to chew on. No,
but the thing is that you just keep iterating it. And I've found that, like, getting better at doing music is the same way. And I would even say that doing music is my main vehicle for kind doing that spiritual work.
With the divine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting in that no mind zone.
Yeah.
So there's the spiritual, and then there's also ritual, or some people call religion.
I go to synagogue once a week.
Yeah.
You know, or with summer hours, it's been once a week. I have to get a license so I can work a morning shift, so I can do it every week.
Because it's a nice way to get some community, too.
Oh, yeah. And ask for the specific holidays off, but and the thing is, like, the congregation I go to is definitely like music people and hippies, and it's like supercharged choir practice, because I was familiar before I had access to a synagogue with these texts as written prayers. Mm-hmm. So there's already associations there for me, and then
do you get to sing? Do you sing when you?
Yeah, that's the main thing of our prayer service is song.
There's a sacredness in that.
There absolutely is.
With people and just singing.
There absolutely is, and it's people singing together though was politically supercharged and can be like politically supercharged. Not that like you know, like. And I have idiosyncratic or wiggly or nervy opinions about this. I think it's important to build vehicles for political action that are indifferent to matters of religion, and to not think you are doing political work by doing that spiritual work, even though it's important. Yeah. For me, they are just different, but they're not disconnected either.
Yeah.
It's like the imagination, reason, intellect distinction, intuition distinction, you know? They don't have nothing in common with each other. It's just important to keep those tracks of work separate.
I was watching a documentary about Bob Dylan, and so like in the early 60s, a lot of his songs were kind of like an anthem for civil rights.
Yeah.
Anti-war and that sort of thing. And kind of like the gist of what the documentary was saying about he was speaking in interviews, and that's how they were piecing all this together, was that he was very much for these causes, but it started to feel like people would want him to speak at rallies and things like that, and it started to feel, I don't know, I'd have to go back and watch to really understand what he was saying, but something felt off about it to him, and he didn't want to be seen as like his songs as political.
Yeah.
So he started to kind of separate himself from that.
And I mean, like, I think that, you know, I don't know Bob Dylan personally, and
I would love to.
He seems okay. He seems like a normal guy.
He's probably pretty normal, but he's got some amazing songs.
He's got some amazing songs. No, and I think...
important piece of history.
So I'm not Bob Dylan, I don't know him personally, but I kind of wonder if he got the sense that by having him be a pinup for protest song, people were avoiding turning protest and gathering into political action, i.e. actually, preventing people from getting evicted is a small but, very necessary and important one, right? Mm-hmm. Again, like avoidance of the essential or like, and these are both Reichian terms, avoidance of the essential or a substitute contact for politics. Those people who were just for his music in any case and also doing political work most likely continued being for his music and following him as an artist because it's still like the same person doing those more surreal or personal songs, right?
What does love mean to you? Like love, because it's a broad term. And
love? I would say love has been a more important vehicle for me for spiritual work than music, actually, and maybe an animating force of continuing to do the music because it's about my friends and with them and for them, right? So love has everything to do with relationality and presence to others.
Yes.
It does mean obligation to others in like a
service
positive sense.
Others.
Yeah.
Maybe even evolution too.
It is about evolution.
As a species.
Yeah, and it's about kind of, if I can go out on a limb, it's about refusing things that degrade evolution. And
so that could segue nicely to where do you think humanity is going? So that's very broad, obviously, but if you could like sum it up.
I think I don't have a sum up. My hope, and I would like again, Spinoza's terms, I would like this to one day be confidence that, but my hope is not yet a confidence that we get in a situation where everybody is responsible for their own spiritual work so that we can be commonly responsible for practical work. So we can be commonly responsible for practical work so that we can all enjoy the fruits of that practical work together, right? Yeah. My hope is for an end to exploitation writ large, but I don't have the plan. Where humanity is headed, I think we're going to continue working until we go extinct, and then we will be recycled into God or nature, all that is the case. And that's like fine. We're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I would like people in the near future to see a world without exploitation.
Yeah. I do, and I like that you focus on the elimination of exploitation as like your focus with the political, because I think that is the biggest, maybe the main problem we have in this world. Exploitation over others. And it's been that way
for a long time.
It's been that way for,
but not forever.
We can change it. And I think it will change. I think we are evolving. And I think that eventually that will be fizzled out.
What I do have confidence in is that people will continue doing work in that direction, and that's what's worthwhile.
Yeah.
I got a text message. This is Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues.
I'm going to text this person back. We're in an interview.
This is Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues from Highway 61 Revisited.
Oh my God, Bob Dylan has so much music out. It's so hard to keep track.
Okay. Couple things. I have a cold. When you're lost in the rain in Juarez and it's Easter time too. When your gravity fails and negativity don't pull you through. Don't put on any hands down on Rumor Avenue. not to go to her too soon, but she takes your voice and leaves you howling at the moon. Up on Housing Project Hill, it's either fortune or fame. You must pick one or the other, though neither are to be what they claim. If you're looking to get silly, you best go back from where you came. 'Cause the cops don't need you, and then they expect the same. Now, all the authorities, they just stand around and boast how they blackmailed the sergeant at arms into leaving his post and picking up Angel, who just arrived here from the coast, who looked so fine at first but left looking just like a ghost. I started out on Burgundy and soon hit the harder stuff. Everybody said that they'd have my back when the game got rough, but the joke was on me. There was nobody even there to love. I'm going back to New York City. I do believe that I've had enough.
That was awesome. And that's a Bob Dylan song?
Yeah, Highway 61 Revisited.
Okay. So I love, again, so like,
I hope my voice wasn't cracking too much, by the way. I'm recovering from a cold.
it sounded really good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing. So the interview with Eve, like a lot of his songs, it's the storytelling. I mean, it's really good songs all around, but like the storytelling. And Bob Dylan's lyrics is these incredible stories. Like, like there's this ether where all these amazing stories
I know.
are just pulled from.
He has a gift for coming up with characters and characterizing people and places, I think.
These deep stories.
Yeah. I mean, that one's clearly like a very long road trip, kind of like cycled, like it starts in Juarez and ends in New York City, right? And just kind of this New Orleans almost kind of scenery and feel to it.
Thank you for watching the Sempiternal Lila experience. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more interviews.
All right.